Hello everyone, welcome back to my video. I'm Nono, and in this video we are going to do part 5 of the reading. So in this reading we are going to look at question number 1 and 2 of the two small extracted paragraphs from the main passage. So in this exercise, in this multiple choice question type, we are looking at a very specific level, but I will not mention this specific level. You will have to guess it by yourself. And what is the best to do? How you should do it is that when the two extracted paragraphs come on screen, pause that video right there and then read it by yourself before we get to the explanation. And then after that, when the questions come on screen, pause that video right there again and then do it by yourself before we get to the explanation parts of the video. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so this is reading part 5. We have a whole video series on reading, and this is going to be the part 5. Okay, so let's get into it. So these are the two extracted paragraphs of the main passage. Pause this video right here to read the first paragraph. If you have finished it, pause the video right here again to read the second paragraph. Okay, so these are the questions, question number 1 and question number 2. So I want you to read it by yourself, do your exercises, these exercises by yourself before the explanation part, before we get into the explanation part. Okay, so let's get into the questions first. So as you have already read in the earlier part of the video, I will go ahead and jump straight into the question. Now, in the multiple choice question type, this is a little bit tricky to approach the paragraphs and the question. So the best way for me is that before I read the question, I read the paragraphs first, 1 or 2 paragraphs, and then in general, I have skim the paragraph in general just to get an overall impression of what it means. So after that, I go to the question. I read the question statement. For example, right here, what did Paul notice about the turtles in the first paragraph? So it says first paragraph. So in the questions which do not have, in some questions which do not have first paragraph, the word first paragraph, we have to look at the fact and the detail, which is Paul noticed about the turtles. So Paul is watching a documentary on the television and he notices something really special about these turtles. So where is it in this first paragraph? Because we have already skimmed the paragraph. It's much faster for me to do that. So this is my personal experience. It's going to be great if I would share that to you. I have learned from my teacher. My teacher was, he used to be an examiner of the Cambridge examinations, and I was trained by him. So he told me that every single time we come across these passages, skim and then scan and read in detail. So this is like, most of us will already know this technique. For the location of the answer, we need these techniques. We have to skim, read overall, and then we will search for this particular fact, which is scanning step, which is this fact called Paul noticing something about the turtles. So there must be something really particular, the highlight. So we have to scan for the passage to look for this fact. And you see this answer right here. You see the overall location of the answer. So what does it say? You read in detail. So this is my personal experience that I learned from my teacher. So now this question number 1 says, what did Paul notice about the turtles in the first paragraph? Number A, these are the options. Their reluctance to return to the sea, their behavior when they're young, the effort they make to survive, the tiny proportion of young who survived. So according to your own answer, what do you think? What is your answer? And keep that in mind. Let's go back to the paragraphs to get into the explanation. So let's go to the location of the answer, the process of locating the answer. So from here, Paul watched the television. So this is all about, as you have already, again, as you have already read this paragraph, the first paragraph, I will skip ahead and get into the analysis of locating the answer, approaching the answer. This is about Paul watching the television and noticing about the documentary of turtles and the survival of the turtles. Okay, so this one says an army of turtles waddle up the beach. So these things, dunes, he stalls reptilian babies emerge sticky from the broken shells and repeat the journey in reverse. Thousands of tiny helmets. Okay, so these things over the moonlit dunes towards the breakers. So right here, from here, the beginning to right here, it's what he sees. He's not actually like noticing any highlight. What is the question asking you? That the question is actually saying that what does Paul notice about the turtles? But this time, it's not actually like this. It's not that simple because you see, this one says he saw the wriggling reptilian babies emerge sticky from the broken shells and repeat the journey in reverse. So the word that says he saw, it kind of looks like he noticed something. So let's keep on looking. The wriggling reptilian babies emerge sticky from the broken shells and repeat the journey in reverse. Repeating the journey in reverse means that they go back to the sea where their mother has come from. So they repeat the journey in reverse. Thousands of tiny helmets trundling inexorably over the moonlit dunes to weather breakers. So this is about, you might, what do you think this is? This is a survival, and this is kind of like repeating the journey and how they are born, how they are like coming out of the broken shells. But this is not the highlight. The question is asking us for the highlight of the whole paragraph or the whole documentary. Why do we know that? Because it says, what did Paul notice about the turtles in the first paragraph? Something must be very special enough for somebody to notice. And that's why, that is how we know that we are looking for the highlight of the whole documentary in this paragraph. So let's keep on looking. This is just how the turtles are born, how they go back to the sea. This is just the beginning. Let's keep on looking. So those who escaped being flipped over on their backs and pecked to death by wading birds were finally swallowed up in the surf. Those who escaped being eaten, they are finally swallowed up in the surf. So this is like the natural happening. It's not anything about surviving. It's just how they are pecked to death, how they are eaten to death. So they were like, they slipped through being unnoticed back into the sea or the ocean. So this is like what happens. Those who escape being flipped over, those who escape being eaten alive, were back in the sea because of the surf or the waves. So another thing is, there was no pleasure involved in this reptilian cycle of birth and death. How do you see this sentence? Is this about the very, very unpleasant situation happening to the reptilian cycle alone? Or is it just about the survival, the very, very stressful survival of the turtles? What do you think? This is not the effort that the little turtles are doing. It is just they they get born. They are born from the shells. They broke the shells. They come out from that hole, the sand, and then they go back to the sea. And then on their journey, they get pegged to death. So this is like the process that happens every single time, and this is like very, very bad. There is no pleasure in this cycle. It is not anything about survival or anything. This is a survival, but this is not the main point. The highlight is not about the survival, because this is just saying no pleasure, just natural, nothing else. So the last sentence says, so everything seems a little bit unsure until you get to the last sentence of this paragraph. It says, the turtles survived purely because there were so many of them. Purely, the word purely makes it clear, you know, because only because, purely because there were so many of them. They don't have to put in any effort. The oceans were so vast that one or two were born to slip through unnoticed. So this sentence, what do you think about this sentence? Is this sentence about the efforts made to survive, or just um, the situation telling you that this is very unpleasant. This is like only a few survive, and then most of them get pecked. Okay, so this is what it means. So let's look at the question. So, what did Paul notice about the turtles in the first paragraph? It's asking about what we notice, actually. It's not about Paul, it's about us. Because we might simply think this is just we have to search for the keywords relating to notice or highlighting something. You might be able to think that, but this time it's not that simple. The question is asking us for the main idea and the whole highlight of the whole documentary in the first paragraph, the paragraph that we just did. So the options are their reluctance to return to the sea. Do they become reluctant to return to the sea? Are they reluctant to return to the sea? No, it's just a natural process. They have to get to the sea no matter what, because this is what it's supposed to be. Their behavior when they're young. Their behavior when they're young. Do we see any older things or younger turtles here? We don't. Because, and with their young, mean with their babies and with their younger turtles, you know? So we don't see anything about the parents right here. It's just about the survival and the no pleasure, unpleasant life cycle of the reptilian babies. So it's nothing about their behavior when they're young or anything that happens to be their to be related with their behavior. So number C, the effort they made to survive. Do we see any efforts they make to survive? Yes, we do, but not very much right here, because the paragraph sounds, the accent of the paragraph is just about like the very unpleasant life cycle and how much only survived. So they can literally rely on the number of turtles going back to the sea, and then they escape from being like facing death by the big wading birds. So this is not C. This is not C. So number D, the tiny proportion of young who survived. So this is number two, and number two's question says, Paul assumed that if a turtle did not wish to reproduce, the options are it would be punished by other turtles, or it would end up doing so anyway. Number C, this attitude would not spread to other turtles. Number D, this would not come as a surprise. Now I want you to think very, very carefully at this one, because this is really tricky. The fact is obvious by itself, but it's a little bit tricky. The way you get to that answer, the main point, is a little bit tricky. So be careful at this exercise. Number two, so it would be punished by other turtles. Is it punishment? It would end up doing so anyway. Will it end up like trying to reproduce anyway? Will it end up reproducing anyway, although it doesn't want to do that? Or number C, this attitude that the turtle does not want to reproduce, this attitude will not spread to other turtles. Is it number C or number D? This would not come as a surprise. Is it not surprising? Is it normal? So before we find the answer, we know what to do. We have to locate the answer. We have to locate the fact from the question. Okay, so Paul assumed if a turtle did not wish to reproduce. If a turtle did not wish to reproduce, what happens? Let's see. So, this is the second paragraph. This was the first one. This is the second one. Okay, so let's see. As you guys have already read it in the earlier part of the video, I will skip ahead and go straight to the answer, locating the answer. Okay, so their genes force them ever onwards. Okay, so this is like previous generation had imposed their will upon their distant descendants, and the descendants warily obeyed. So most of the time, their descendants, the ancestors of these descendants, they will like send in some impulse to reproduce. If they want to do it or not, whether they wanted to do it or not, they will have to do anyway. So let's go to another part. So previous generations had imposed their will upon their distant descendants. They will send in the impulse to reproduce, and the descendants warily means they don't want to do it, but anyway they have to do it, obeyed. They did not want to obey, but they obeyed weakly. So this is what happens. But this is like just the natural happening. Mostly this happens if, by chance, a turtle was born in whom this instinct towards multiplication means reproduction, was misformed or absent. A turtle whose instinct directed them not towards reproduction, but towards reflection on the purpose of reproduction, say, or towards seeing how long it could stay underwater on one breath, then this instinct would die with the turtle. Now, this fact is really obvious, very obvious. It's different from like other things. This is the main idea. This is like the exceptions of what happens according to the natural situation. So, but towards reflection on the purpose of reproduction. So, this is like something like a reflection on the purpose of reproduction means they do not want to reproduce. Reflection is like coming opposite towards the purpose. You visualize that. How does a reflection take place, right? So, they do not want to reproduce. That's what it means. Say, or towards seeing how long it could stay underwater on one breath, then this instinct would die with the turtle. Now, if this instinct would die with the turtle. So, this kind of attitude will die with the turtle. It won't spread anymore. It's it's like basically at the end with the turtle, together with the turtle. It disappears together with the turtle. That's why it doesn't spread to any other turtles. This instinct, this attitude is stuck in their minds. Like as a turtle who is born with misformed instinct, and then if they kind of reproduce anyway, if they were to end up doing so anyway, they will share this attitude of not reproducing to other small little turtles. So this generation, this new attitude is going to go in like another new generations. So that's why this attitude does not spread to the later generation. So this is what it means. So why is the fact of reproducing there anyway? Like we have two facts, two main points in this paragraph. One says the turtles have to reproduce anyway. This is like nature. But the second main part is that they say if a turtle does not want to like reproduce, unlike other people, other turtles, it's going to be like they will die. They will not be able to share this attitude with other smaller generation, new generations. So this is like trying to make this whole exception bigger, and that's why they have to like compare this exception to what's natural and what always happens. The main point right here, the thing that is really being highlighted in this part is like the second part, which is if a turtle has like a misformed instinct and then does not want to reproduce, like as a result, they will die because it's dangerous to share this kind of attitude to new generations. So the main answer is it will be punished by other turtles. Do we see any punishment? No, we don't. Number B, it would end up doing so anyway. This is just the one point. It's not the main idea. It would end up doing so anyway. It's just the small little fact that we compared to make the main fact more obvious. So, what is the main point? Number C, it says this attitude would not spread to other turtles. Exactly, because we do not want this kind of bad attitude of not wanting to reproduce spread to like new generations. So, number C is the most suitable answer. But number D, it says this would not come as a surprise. It doesn't have enough purpose. It doesn't have enough subject. What would not come as a surprise? Not wishing to reproduce. It's a little bit off. And it also doesn't say anything about not being a surprise or this is totally natural or anything like that. No, it's not. It's an exception. It is not something that would not come as a surprise. It is an exception towards other turtles which are born with this good instinct. Okay, so the answer is number C, and that's why we choose number C. Okay. This is going to be the end of question 1 and 2 of the reading part 5. and we'll see you in the next video. So next video will be question number 3 and 4 of other extracted passages from the main passage. So yeah, we'll see you in the next video. This is the end of today's video.